thank you for the great sharing, Matthew. Yeah, so would you share with us like how different is it working in the nonprofit sector and the commercial firms?
Sure. I think for me the biggest difference has been when you wake up in the morning and you know that today is going to be a tough day. Maybe relationship at work that's not working, or something's going to be hard. When you dig deep and say, why am I doing it? Like, what's getting me out of bed? And so when you dig deep, if what you find is something that you are passionate about, you're passionate about seeing the results, then it's motivating. It's very motivating. And for me, it's different for different people. But for me, working for a very large firm, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't passionate about them improving their bottom line by a few percent. But I'm very passionate about increasing the living standard of people who are suffering from lack of housing or lack of sanitation or lack of medical care. So it's about passion for me. That's the difference.
So besides passion, what other qualities would you say like for a social innovator should perform?
Sure. I think you do in the same way as a regular entrepreneur in a purely profit-oriented business. They need to know and understand their market. In fact, they need to identify as a customer. And I think if you don't have a genuine passion and compassion for the need in society that you are seeking to address, if you don't personally identify with it, then it's harder. So I would say if you're a social entrepreneur, that one of the characteristics is that it has to be something that you connect with deeply, that you have an understanding of, that you feel you're on a mission to accomplish something with it, yeah.
Yeah, so among all the like young entrepreneurs that you have met, like for example in Hong Kong, what specific advantage they have?
I think they have some big advantages in access to a very, very solid infrastructure in this city. They've got access to people who have the ability to invest. They have access to incubators. They have access to facilities. They have access to technology. They have access, if they know where to look, to mentors. So I think the big city advantage of having all the capabilities and capacities concentrated in a small area can give Hong Kong entrepreneurs a degree of an edge. And I think especially in the last few years, we're seeing that as more and more people enter into entrepreneurship, those things are growing, they're amplifying, they're becoming more available, and so the advantage grows. So I think, yeah, that's one of the big advantages of being a Hong Kong person. But also education here is strong. People are coming out of a good education system. They have a good foundation to think about where they're going to apply their skills in an entrepreneurial setting. So a lot of advantages, yeah.
I see. So talking about yourself, along your journey working on the nonprofit sector, so what is the biggest challenge or what is the hardest time so far?
I think two standout challenges would be same as entrepreneurs. One is funding. One big challenge is funding because you always need to know that you can put the resources in to run the programs that you plan. And so finding people that share that passion and can put those resources in is always tough. And another is, again, like any organization, is people. Finding people who have the skill set and who are willing and able to invest themselves over the long term into something that's tough to do. You have to be persistent, as people have said today, and finding people who will persist through one setback, two setbacks, 10, 20 setbacks. That can make it hard to take every idea and realize it. It's only those ideas that you can bring the funding and the people to that can make them work. So actually, I would say in the charitable sector for me, those have been the two biggest. And I would guess in the for-profit sector, they're often two of the biggest as well.
And so talking about people, how do you retain great people in an enterprise?
It's a good question. I think culture, as has been mentioned, is enormously important. People buy into something that's bigger than themselves. And if there is a vision that the organization has that's articulated in a way that people can really internalize and take ownership of, and no longer care for their own interest so much as for the common, the goal, the vision that everyone's sharing, then their staying power is immense. So if you're always trying to keep people just with the dollars or just with the perks, I mean, those things are important. You need to take care of people. You need to give them a good environment to work in, take care of their needs. But that by itself sometimes isn't enough to keep them going when an interesting offer comes up elsewhere or things get tough, you know. So I think having a common and a shared vision, and that means speaking about the vision. That means talking about it together, sharing it, growing it, internalizing it, yeah. My biggest tip would be step in and start doing. Some of the most interesting social innovations that I've come across, in fact, the organization that I'm currently Director of Strategy for, it didn't necessarily start with the 10-year vision in mind. It started with responding to a very particular need in the community, seeing an opportunity to meet a need and stepping forward in that and being flexible and allowing it to grow, continuing to respond to the need, continuing to persevere in it. So actually, if you see an opportunity, I think it's important to step into it, to take that first step. And it takes a lot of courage, and sometimes you won't have all the answers in your mind already. But as people have said, by failing fast, by trying and coping with failure and turning that into new understanding, you can progress. But if you need it all worked out on paper beforehand and you need to know it's a sure thing 10 years in advance, then it's really hard to reach the point where it feels like the right time. So I'd say, I guess the Nike slogan, just do it, move forward.
Do it, and with passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Passion is critical.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Matthew, for the great sharing. Thank you.